What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with another Destiny 2 video, and in this one, ahead of the final shape which is launching in June of this year, we're going to take a look at a bunch of the new rewards, loot and progression systems, weapons, armor, exotic weapons, and supers that are going to change the way that we play the game following the next major expansion. So in this one we're doing a bit of a roundup job, breaking down a bunch of the stuff that was shown off in the showcase, but also some of the other updates and bits of information that Bungie have given us before and after that showcase, which give us a better idea of some of the key changes to these systems that we'll see with the major expansions. So there are a few different bits to touch on in the video today, and of course in the coming months we can expect more info and reveals from Bungie. So if you're looking forward to the final shape and want to stay up to date with everything that Bungie announced, then be sure to get subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications. But without further delay, let's jump into today's video. And so of course there are a whole bunch of different elements to the final shape, and Bungie have announced that in late spring of this year, around April time, they are going to start showing off more gameplay and giving more significant reveals for the upcoming expansion. So that's certainly something to look forward to, but initially, let's talk a little bit about armor and some of the progression system changes that we'll see for the expansion. And initially, Bungie have shown off the destination armor for the Pale Heart. Of course, Pale Heart will be the key location for the final shape, which we'll find within the Traveler. But for these pieces of armor, of course we see them in the key art for the expansion and some of the bits of gameplay that Bungie have provided so far. Been some mixed opinions about these armor pieces, so let us know what you think down below. But of course, these will be joined by raid armor, new world drops, and exotic armor, where in previous expansions we've had 2 exotic armor pieces per character, as well as the choice to obtain one of them off the back of the legendary campaign for Witch Queen and Lightfall. So it seems likely that this is how it will work this time around as well. Otherwise, we don't know of any major system changes for armor, but something worth briefly mentioning here in relation to progression systems. And Bungie have said they have plans to replace some bounties with a more rewarding and engaging system, which is tentatively called the Pathfinder, and this will debut on the new destination in the final shape. And while they're currently nailing down a plan for how to use the system to replace core bounties in the new year, for now they give us a work in progress preview of the Pathfinder UI. So it sort of appears that there'll be a bunch of different objectives, and these will be branched together, but there'll be certain routes that we can take to get rewards that perhaps give us the option of different challenges or bounty type objectives, essentially meaning that players will have some amount of agency in which direction they take to earn rewards. And obviously this is something that Bungie are going to look to push to various different areas of Destiny 2, but for the moment we have that confirmation that this will be a core way of progressing with the vendor for the final shape destination. So that also means it's possible that the destination armor and weapons will be able to be earned through this system, but obviously it's very early days and Bungie haven't given us more information just yet, so this is something that we'll probably hear about in the coming months. Another reward related thing though for final shape, which is worth mentioning very quickly, actually relates to the annual pass edition for the pre-order, but throughout the final shape year we'll be able to unlock these secret stashes if you've pre-ordered the annual pass version of the game, and we'll get one of them per episode, dropping 2 Ascendant alloys, 3 Ascendant shards, an exotic cipher, and 1 exotic accessory. Obviously not a major loot thing for the expansion or the episodes, but just something to keep in mind right there. Next though, let's speak about weapons. And Bungie have revealed what essentially appears to be the destination set right here, and these come with these sort of Vanguard Mentor themes. They have this cool artwork on the side, and we can spot Zavala, Akora, and Cade 6 who's returning for the expansion. And Bungie have said that one of these will be a new support weapon subfamily, but of course it's possible that multiple weapons from this set could be part of that family. Although the one that Bungie pointed out is a legendary support frame auto rifle, and the dev said it will let players switch seamlessly from firing at enemies to healing allies. And the footage shows the Titan firing the weapon at the hunter, who seems to heal over time, so it could be that each round gives an amount of healing, which means we'd need to fire multiple shots at a target to fully heal them. And it's possible they could even provide things like overshields, as the footage suggests. But another element in terms of legendary weapons is that we may see the further rollout of the rocket pistol sidearm subfamily, as of course in the showcase for Final Shape, Bungie suggested that this will be a Final Shape weapon, but this particular sidearm dropped as part of the loot pool for the dungeon in Season of the Wish, so I'm not sure if it was brought forward, much like what we saw with Dragon's Breath, but from their wording it seems possible that we'll see more of these in the Final Shape, as well as other potentially unique archetypes. So that could be cool, but with it being an expansion, we can expect the destination set we just touched on, as well as any world drops, raid weapons, ritual type weapons, and hopefully many more weapons added to the pool. But that takes us to exotic weapons. And there are only 2 ones that they've revealed, which are brand new, and this is of course the Golden Gun Sniper Rifle, which is essentially how the developers described it. Of course it's a Tex Mechanica weapon based on that artwork. And additionally, Joe Blackburn confirmed that this is an energy sniper, so that makes sense since it'll obviously be a solar weapon, but fortunately it's not a heavy sniper. Then on top of this, they revealed a weapon which allows us to harness the might of the Traveler, and it's a trace rifle inspired by the Traveler's beam cutscene from Lightfall, which is pretty awesome. awesome. So those new exotics, of course, have the potential to be pretty cool, and another exotic weapon that we can pretty much guarantee we'll see will be the new raid exotic. But otherwise, they did touch on reprised weapons. Of course, there was Dragon's Breath, firstly, and this turned up in Season of the Wish, so perhaps that was just in the showcase to flesh things out a bit. Although looking to the future, we'll see the return of the Kvostov auto rifle, so this is the classic basic, first ever Destiny weapon that any of us used. And back in D1, of course, it returned as an exotic in Rise of Iron with selectable perks, where we could pick between the classic broken scope and a more modern variant, as well as a bunch of firing mode options between fully automatic, which is a basic auto rifle, and then burst fire, which is kind of like a pulse, and semi-auto fire, which was somewhat like a scout rifle. And then it could also select between hammer-forged, rifle barrel, and braced frame, as well as extended mag, counterbalance, and rangefinder, so there are some similarities to some of the craftable weapons in the game. But Kvostov was also able to switch between a 450 RPM auto, which had bonus range, or a 900 RPM, which had bonus stability. So it was a somewhat unique weapon, especially in Destiny 1, but of course, whether that'll be enough to make it a good weapon in Destiny 2, we'll simply have to wait and see. And of course, we know it will have to be very strong at base for that to work, unless Bungie, of course, expand on its exotic traits somehow. So I'd love to get thoughts from you guys down below about what they could do with Kvostov to make it more interesting. And then additionally, they've confirmed the return of Red Death. And D2 has Crimson, which is like a mini Red Death, and kills heal the wielder, which is exactly what Red Death did in D1. Although kills increase the reload speed for Red Death, where Crimson allow kills to partially reload the weapon. Either way, they are incredibly similar, and in terms of identity, they're basically the same weapon, with the exception of the obvious archetype differences. But Red Death was a great all-around weapon for PvP and PvE. Again, for D2 though, it'll need something to set it apart from the Crimson. However, given the archetype of pulse rifle that it is, Red Death could also be a workhorse in Destiny 2, especially in harder content. If Bungie give it a couple of additional options, maybe they could add bursts of healing over time on champion or major kills, or some other element to secure the weapon as a great option for difficult content. That's probably the main challenge for bringing back something like Red Death, so again, share any thoughts or speculation you have on that down below. For the moment, that's pretty much everything we know about armor, weapons, and exotics for the final shape, but another element that will affect the gameplay considerably in the final shape, including the sort of perks and options for the new exotics, would be the new supers. So Bungie have said they're leaning into the original elements and harnessing the Traveler's Light, which thematically does make sense. And they've also said that across these new supers, there's this sort of thread of offensive powerhouse and support capacity as one of the key goals for them. So looking at the Warlock super, which is a callback to Radiance from D1 called Song of Flame, Bungie have said that outside of Golden Gun, it's the only other first-person super to be introduced. And one of the main abilities is the melee, which fires out 6 projectiles which spread and track targets. But it also features the use of the grenade, which auto-tracks targets, and when thrown, it'll attack one target and then bounce to the next. And so like Radiance, it's sort of like a buffed abilities kind of super. And when the super is affecting enemies, Bungie have said that it will also allow teammates to take advantage of the Scorch component, and it'll supercharge solar ally weapons, which encompasses that goal of being kind of offensive and supportive at the same time. And then they've said the new aspect for Warlocks allows casting a rift to spawn a solar soul, and this will launch at nearby enemies periodically, like an additional grenade or projectile, which is sort of autonomous. So it's an interesting mix of abilities and styles that we've seen from Warlocks before. But next we get Titans, and they see the Twilight Arsenal, which is the only ranged one-off offensive super for Titans in the game, although it does operate very differently to other supers like that. So the Titan jumps up and summons a Void Axe, which can be thrown at least 3 times during the animation. Again, we should keep in mind that this isn't a roaming super, but the throw itself behaves more like a Nova Bomb in a way, and these axes can stick into the ground or enemies before drawing in enemies and exploding in void damage. So in itself, it's kind of cool, but even better is that the axes left behind turn into relic-style weapons that can be picked up by any players in the game. So it'll operate pretty differently to other supers, and they say that the new Titan aspect allows Titans to press and hold the grenade key to consume the grenade and turn it into a shield, and then as the shield takes damage, it'll contain the energy which can ultimately be released and sent out in this sort of void shockwave, kind of like a giant Warlock melee or something. So it's definitely a different take on traditional element subclasses that we've seen in the game. And finally, we get to the Hunter, which is called Storm's Edge. And this allows the Hunter to trigger the super, which spawns a giant throwing knife, which can be thrown to a position on the map. And it then allows the Hunter to blink teleport to its location and follow up with a massive sort of swirling blade attack that destroys everything in the immediate vicinity. And the devs said that the super timer allows this attack to be done 3 times back to back, and so we'll be able to target different groups or areas one after another, which is cool. But additionally, the new aspect for Hunters lets them take the Arc Staff and twirl it in the air, which simultaneously basically propels the hunter upwards and then creates a burst of arc energy, and this applies the amplified buff to the hunter and any nearby allies underneath the blast. So again, it's that mixture of being somewhat supportive but also offensive, and they've done it in this sort of neutral way where obviously when players pop their super, the goal is to be offensive a lot of the time, but there's an element of that support component sort of being automatic alongside the more offensive aspects of the ability. So I think in terms of focusing on light supers once again, these do look pretty cool. Of course, there's been a lot of conversation about the lack of a new darkness subclass for this expansion, and I totally agree it would be really neat to see another element used once again, but obviously Bungie aren't quite ready to do that, and also they want that thematic tie-in with the Traveler's Light, and we're sort of going full circle back to OG subclasses, but done in a very different way. So give us your thoughts down below. And for today, guys, in terms of rewards, new abilities, changes to the way that we play the final shape, that's what we have to round up in the video. So I hope this one has been useful, and if it has, a rating below very much helps us out on the channel, but also feel free to get subscribed, and once again I will keep you posted when we get new reveals, info and updates for Destiny 2, so definitely stick around if you want to see more of that, but otherwise share any thoughts you have in the comment section once again, and for today I very much appreciate you tuning in, and I'll catch you guys very soon.